right, good evening and welcome to the
This
Norwood
conference will now be recorded.
on December 16th. If anyone has a recording device present, please let us know now. As we've been doing in the remote environment, I'm going to go down the commission members list and just ask you to verbally confirm your attendance one by one, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is present. Chris Capizio.
Present.
Peter Bamber.
Here.
John Dieter.
Here.
Heather Miller.
Here.
Carly Rockland. Carly, I think I see you muted. It's a weird mute, though. Catherine Walsh.
Here.
All right. Tonight on our agenda, first up, we have a pretty cool line item. We're going to be introducing and welcoming Laurie McClellan, who's going to be our new recording secretary. So Laurie will be responsible for Conservation Commission minutes moving forward. She brings a lot of significant experience and qualifications to the position. So I want everyone to extend a warm welcome to Laurie, and I would love to give her the opportunity to introduce herself.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Laurie McClellan, and I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to working with you all.
Thanks very much for being here, Laurie. Looking forward to it. Moving into public hearings tonight, first up, we have an amended notice of intent, DEP file number 251-0512, Norwood number N2019-11. Applicant Paul Lisi, represented by John Glassy Engineering. Project description is single-family home in the buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland, associated grading, landscape, and utilities. We have a requested amendment that is going to change perhaps the size, shape, and configuration of the proposed home and adds additional pervious paved surface. We have representative present tonight. I see a few friendly faces here. We could have a description of what it is that's been modified. We can hear from our environmental planner / conservation agent, and then we can turn to questions and comments from the conservation commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, David Marin, I'm calling here. We're not at the posted time yet for the meeting, and I wonder if you might wait a moment or two so we don't have a problem later if somebody says we started the discussion before we
Mr. Hearn, you're a little hard to hear. You may need to speak closer to your mic.
Chairman, David Hearn on behalf of Paul Lisi, but if I speak slowly, my concern is not starting the hearing before the posted time. If I speak slowly, we'll get to that posted time. So,
We can hold just a few seconds, Mr. Hearn. And if while we're waiting, I co-sign to Ms. Jones' concern. I'm having quite a bit of difficulty hearing you with my speakers amplified to the max.
let me see if I can fix it on my end here. Chairman, I'll do the best I can and speak up. I hope you can hear me sufficiently. Fortunately, I don't have that much to say, but you're using the usual laptop. So, I don't know. Can you hear me now, Chairman?
I have my speakers at 100 out of 100, and if I focus, I can faintly hear you.
All right, I'll speak very briefly when you want me to, and most of the presentation will be by Mr. Block, but I'm happy to give a summary or an introduction when you are ready for it.
All right, I think our posted hearing time was 7:35. I have 7:36 on my clock, so we can proceed, but I will say that I am having an incredible difficult time hearing. So if Mr. Glosser has a better time presenting the bulk of this, that may work better for the commission.
let's have Mr. Glossa do it.
That's fine. Can you hear me okay, Mr. Chairman and everyone else? Okay. So my name's John Glossa, Glossa Engineering, 46 East Street in East Walpole, and I'm representing Paul EC. Paul purchased this property recently, and as you know from our last meeting, was not necessarily a public hearing, but from our last meeting, Paul successfully was able to get a variance from the Norwood Zoning Board of Appeals to allow the building on this lot to be 10 feet back from the street versus the zoning requirement of 30 feet. And what that did is it allowed us to obviously move the building forward and to have less of the building touch the 50-foot no-build area. And so the building is larger than the building that was originally approved under the order of conditions. And so that's one of the amendments to the order of conditions to allow this larger building. It has a cantilever deck. There was a deck in the original order of conditions that was not cantilevered and was within the 50-foot no build. In my experience, we have been able to do that on other projects in Norwood, even with your no build zone. But this deck will be cantilevered, so there'll be no portion of the building itself touching the ground within the 50-foot no disturb area. And do you want to share the screen, Holly? I really don't, wasn't really prepared to do that. Thanks, Holly. I think that looks pretty good. You can see the entire lot outlined in the dark line, and you can see the house, which is it doesn't have a hatching or anything, but it's you know the box and the L's off of it that are right up close to the front of the lot at the lot line. So that house is positioned 10 feet back from the street, and as I said, it's slightly bigger, not encroaching within the 50-foot no building area with a cantilever deck. And the other change to this plan from the one that's cited in the current order of conditions is that in the current order of conditions, the driveway is on the right side of the house as you're looking at it from the street and as we're looking at it on the screen. So the owner, Paul EC, wanted to move that driveway to the left side, which actually moves it farther away from the wetlands. But at the same time, Paul also wanted to provide for a garage for this house. So there'll be a garage at the rear left corner of the house, a two-car garage. That garage is at the basement level. So you would drive from Brook Street down the driveway, a 12-foot wide driveway, basically until you got to the frontage of the lot, the dark line, and then the driveway will drop approximately 6 feet to a fairly level area that will be used for maneuvering and parking behind the house. Now that is within the 50-foot, or at least part of it. You can see maybe half of the sort of that parking and maneuvering area is within the 50-foot no build area. But your regulations allow for a driveway to be in that area, obviously with your permission. So we've proposed that, and what I did, and Paul Easy wholeheartedly proposes this, or likes this idea, is showing that area being constructed of turf stone concrete pavers. So turf stone concrete pavers, you see them often, they're being used more and more. Essentially, it's a concrete product of, 4 inches thick, and it has a hole in it. Some of them have squares, some of them are round, some of them have these sort of parallelogram kind of holes. But anyway, the paver sits on a bed of concrete sand, which is a very coarse sand, and gravel. So it's going to sit on a bed of at least 13 inches of concrete sand and gravel. And then the concrete pavers sit on top of that. And the top of the pavers can either be filled, or that hole can be filled with pea stone, or in this case, Paul would prefer that it be filled with a sandy loam, a sandy topsoil, and actually seeded, so that, you know, over time, grass grows in there. You get some fairly tough grass that can grow in there, and it has the appearance of lawn, even though it's an area that can easily be driven over. So that 13 inches of concrete sand and gravel at 40% voids can hold about a 10-year storm. So just about 5 inches of rainfall that falls on that surface. And on top of that, what we propose, and again, Paul wholeheartedly supports this, is an infiltration trench along the very rear of that driveway. So that infiltration trench is 2 feet wide and 2 feet deep. And we cover that with sort of what we call river rock, round rocks that are decorative, but allow stormwater to penetrate into the ground. And we put about 6 inches of that river rock, and then we put a filter fabric, and under that we have 3/4 inch crushed stone. And so the reason I do that is that over time, and you know, and this can easily be 20 years or more, but eventually the river rock does, you know, silt up with fines and organic materials, and eventually the imperviousness of it goes away. But it's a simple fix, because you just take the river rock out, put it off to the side, take the filter fabric out, put in new filter fabric, and clean off the river rock, and then put the river rock back. So it's an easy trench to maintain. We do these oftentimes, or I've done these often in the past, and they work well. And that I didn't really figure on how much water that could hold, but that maybe I did. But it doesn't really matter. The point is that the between the turf stone pavers and the trench, that you can easily hold a 10-year storm, so 5 inches of rainfall in 24 hours over that area. And then the other change is that you had asked that the Cultec infiltration chambers that take the roof runoff be moved away from the 25-foot no disturb. So we move them so they're at least 10 feet away from the 25-foot no disturb zone. So those are the changes to the plan. I think that the plan is environmentally sensitive and is deserving of approval and an amended an amended order of conditions citing this plan. Nothing really else has changed here. So just to go back, the changes are the building moved forward, so it's only 10 feet back from the street, or from the street line, not necessarily from the pavement, but from the front line of the lot. It's a bigger building, but it only touches the no build area in a couple of places. It doesn't have that long interface with the no build that the existing or that the currently approved plan has. The driveway on the left side with the maneuvering and parking area in the rear. And I don't know, am I still there? Can you hear me? I kind of got bumped out here.
Still coming through loud and clear, John.
Oh, okay. I can't see you all of a sudden, but how about now?
I still can hear and see you just fine.
Okay, so those are the changes. The larger house moves forward, completely cantilevered deck, driveway on the left side, maneuvering and parking area in the rear, and moving the Cultex to so that none of the Cultex are within 10 feet of the no disturb area. Oh, one more change. This was a request by Holly, and it makes 100% sense to me. This is something that we do in other towns, and that is we propose 4 no disturb plaques. You can see them along the 25-foot no disturb line, and there's a detail of this. The plaques are, we take a 4-foot bound and we put it, well, it's a 3-foot bound, I'm sorry, and we put it we install it 2 feet in the ground with 1 foot showing, and on top of that we epoxy a plaque that says no dumping or alteration of lands beyond this point is allowed per order of the Conservation Commission. So in many towns that I work, that's standard operating procedure. So not a problem, not a high cost thing, but those bounds stick up about 1 foot out of the ground, and there's a very obvious sign on the top of them that indicates that the 25-foot no disturb is to remain undisturbed. So with
Thank you,
that,
Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I've finished my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Glassa. That was very clear to me. I appreciate the updates to the plan. In particular, the details that were added were very helpful to me. At this point, I would ask Ms. Jones if we have any remote, like emails or comments from the public, and then I would see if we have any members of the public here present that are stakeholders or butters to this project that would like to speak.
I didn't receive any emails or phone calls about this prior to the meeting.
Do we have anyone here tonight from the public to comment? All right. Ms. Jones, would you like to give us an update, and then we can open the floor to the rest of the Conservation Commissioners for questions and comments?
Yeah, first, just to apologize, I was sharing the older version of the plan previously and just pulled up the newer version with the conservation markers when Mr. Glossa mentioned them. I will say my major concerns with the new plan were whether the driveway would, through increasing impervious surface, potentially make the area less able to handle storm surges and that type of thing. And those concerns were addressed well in the cover letter that Mr. Glossa included with the plan, speaking to the ability of the turf stone pavers to infiltrate stormwater. I also am glad that they took my suggestion of the no disturb markers, since that driveway is also so close to the no disturb zone. Overall, I think the plan is approvable, and I don't have any major concerns with it.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. I would then ask the commissioners if they have questions or comments that they'd like to express now. Ms. Rockland?
A brief question. Holly, I think you'd mentioned that in the no disturb zone, there shouldn't be mowing. Is that correct? And will the signs, the text on the signs indicate that? You know, if the property changes hands, will it be obvious to someone not to mow there by the text? That's my concern.
Yeah, I think we had a plan detail. The do not disturb plaque says no dumping or alteration of lands beyond this point is allowed per order of the Conservation Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? I don't see any hands. Oh, Mr. Bamber.
This is simply a better plan, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the plan.
I think the motion that we would be looking for is a motion to close the public hearing and to issue an amended order of conditions, amending the plan of record to accept the revised plan dated December 14th, 2020.
Sure.
Do I have a second to Mr. Bamber's motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. As we've been doing in the remote environment, I'm going to go down the list of conservation commissioners now and just ask you to verbally state your position on this vote, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Kristen Capizio.
Aye.
Peter Bamber.
Aye.
John Gier.
Aye.
Heather Miller.
Aye.
Carly Rockland.
Aye.
And Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Thank you for that. Mr. Glossa, any final questions, comments, or concerns before we move along?
No, I would just like to thank the commission for their time and thank Holly for her help with this and for her excellent suggestion with the no disturb plaques. I think that those are very important as we all go forward to protect wetlands, to keep, buffer zones and keep them not disturbed. And, the only way to do that is to have some sort of, notification right out there in the field of what it is and what can and can't be done. So here, what can't be done is you can't alter it.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for saying that, Mr. Glossa. I wholeheartedly agree.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight, Mr. Heron. I apologize for some of the technical difficulties we experienced, but such is the way of the remote environment, I suppose.
Thank you very much. I don't know if you can hear me. New equipment? and I didn't have a 15-year-old available to take my technical advisor. So, thank you, Rick. He's doing his homework already. Thank you.
Thanks again, Mr. Hearn. All right, we'll keep our agenda moving. Next up, we have current and expired orders of condition. Request for order of resource area delineation extension, DEP file number 251-0406, 83 Moore Street. Applicant is 83 Moore Street LLC, represented by George Haler of Lawson and Whiteson LLP. Project description is confirmation of wetland resource area boundaries at 83 Moore Street. Order was initially issued on January 31st, 2008, most recently extended in 2018 until January 31st, 2021. Do we have a representative for this applicant here this evening from George Haler, Lawson and Whiteson?
Hi, this is Christina Engberg. I work with Attorney Heiler from Lawson Whiteson representing the applicant.
Good evening, coming through loud and clear.
Great. You summed up exactly what we are seeking. We're seeking an extension of the ORAD to, 2024.
All right, why don't we start with Ms. Jones then, and we can open the floor for questions or comments from the commissioners thereafter.
Okay, I'll just add for the applicant in their cover letter requesting this extension, they had stated that they wanted the extension. The current owner of the property, I think, purchased the property in 2016 and has been trying to think about ways to redevelop it since then, and is interested in using this order of resource area delineation in doing so.
Correct.
I'm sympathetic to the request in part because the Neponset River flows through 83 Moore Street, and it is largely channelized in this area, which means that it's not likely that the resource area boundaries have changed substantially since 2008. But I would advise the commission against extending the resource area delineation. It has been used, contrary to the statement in the letter, this delineation has been used for several filings, including an open project right now for a gas line installation. And my concern is mostly that the river isn't channelized throughout the entire site. And if there are areas where the mean annual high water line has changed since 2008, then I think it would be not only in the best interests of the town, but also of the applicant to know that as they move forward with their planning process. If the commission chooses not to extend the ORAD tonight, they still can have the, or you all still have the ability to accept the delineation on plans if you choose to. But if you don't extend it, that gives you the option to peer review the delineation again, to have me review it again, or to ask for a new delineation if you think that it may have changed since then. So not extending it would give the commission a little more flexibility, and it is just quite old at this point. So that's my advice. But again, it is a very channelized area. So, and ultimately, of course, it is up to you all.
Thank you for that, Ms. Jones. Questions and comments from the commissioners? Ms. Miller?
Just a comment that I think what Holly said makes a lot of sense. And I think preserving our ability to revisit this later on and make sure that the 2008 delineation is still accurate seems like a prudent thing to do, given that that was done 12 years ago and circumstances may have changed. Even if they've just changed slightly, it might be important to know that when a project is actually proposed on the site. So I would be in favor of preserving our ability to revisit that in the future rather than locking ourselves into something that was determined 12 years ago.
Thank you for that, Ms. Miller. Further questions or comments from the commissioners, please? Mr. Bamber?
I totally agree with Ms. Miller and would ask her to make a motion to that effect.
I have no further questions or comments. Ms. Miller, would you like to make a motion reflective of what we've just discussed?
Yes, so the motion would be to decline to order the extension. Is that correct?
That's right. We would be looking for a motion to move to decline to issue an extension to the DEP number 251-0406 for 83 Moore Street.
Yes.
Second.
A second.
Thank you. As we've been doing in the remote environment, I'm going to ask each commissioner to verbally state their position on this vote. Starting with myself, Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Chris Capizio.
Aye.
Peter Bamber.
Aye.
John Gear.
Aye.
Heather Miller.
Aye.
Carly Rockland.
Aye.
Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Thank you for that. All right, and as Ms. Jones and I think others revisited or confirmed, as Ms. Jones mentioned and others I think revisited or confirmed, this doesn't mean the delineation cannot be used. It just means that the request for the order of resource area delineation extension has been denied. Thank you. Do we have any further
Okay,
questions
thank you.
before I move on? I'm sorry, you cut out there briefly, Miss.
No, thank you. I heard the vote. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so it looks like we're going to move on to reported and ongoing violations on the agenda. I believe that we're going to hand this right over to Ms. Jones to begin with discussion related to Westover Parkway.
Okay, so truly the highlight of my week last week was going to meet with about 15 children who were making a trail in the woods by Westover Parkway. And I think I had updated the commission at the last meeting. We'd gotten some complaints and the trail wasn't going into wetland areas yet, but looked like it may be on its way there. So I met with a group of the children who were biking in the area, and we talked about where the wetland was and why we protect wetlands and some signs of how they could tell they were in a wetland or not. And they told me they would make sure they would turn their trail right around and not go through the wetland. And that they weren't disturbing any vegetation. They were just raking the leaves away for their trail. They asked me for permission to build the trail so that they could be totally in the clear and it's not actually Conservation Commission controlled land. So they're in the process of reaching out to the Board of Selectmen to get official permission. But I'm confident that they're not disturbing wetland areas. And so I am excited about their biking so far. So yeah, very fun last Thursday afternoon to meet up with these youth who are like probably ages 10 to 12 who were playing in the woods. So one of my favorite violations or potential violations. Can I move? So that's all I have. Should we move on to the Jane Center?
I love that story, and yes, please.
Okay, so we have some representatives here from the Jane Center who can tell us about the work that they've done in the last couple of weeks to address the erosion coming off of the parking lot and also wood chip removal.
Hi, I'm Sean Comer, the arborist who kind of devised the initial plan for the Jane Center. And I visited the site about a week and a half ago, and I think they had just put in the silt sock and the hay bales, and they had finished planting everything. And I think shortly after that, they put up a sign as well, like a do not disturb sign. And from what I could see, everything looked pretty good. It seemed like the soil erosion was kind of under control. I don't know if there are any other concerns. I know, Holly, you were out there visiting the site as well. I don't know if you have anything to add or if you have any questions for me.
Yes, I don't have any questions for you. I will say it looks a lot better than 2 weeks ago, and a lot of the wood chips have been removed. It looks much more stabilized. There's 3 lines of straw bales and straw wattles preventing erosion now. And I had asked members of the Jane Center to go check on the area on over the weekend, knowing that we would have rain, and they did that, so I am much happier with the compliance on the site and the remediation efforts since the last time we convened.
Yeah, I think I would be pretty confident at this point that the site is fairly stable from my opinion.
Thank you for that, Mr. Comer, and thank you for that, Ms. Jones. Do we have, before we turn to the commissioners with questions or comments, I would just say that being transparent about my posture and position and all this, I feel like we've been ultimately forgiving and understanding about this and done our very best to work as a community and team to resolve this issue. But I was feeling very underwhelmed with the response, in particular related to the wood chips and the water. And I was disheartened to hear that after such a lengthy period of time was provided, there was not even a significant grassroots effort made to remove this. And we were in a position where if something was not done and done soon, there could have been a compromise to maybe the water quality or water flow or other, erosion related concerns along that shoreline or embankment. And I was relieved to hear that there was such a significant improvement to the site at the latest visit. With that being said, I would turn to the commissioners for questions or comments. Ms. Miller.
Just a question. I think the last time we talked, there were some concerns about inundation of the vegetation that had been planted. And I was just wondering if that is still a concern or if we're confident that it's going to survive or if we need to revisit it in the spring and see what the status is.
I mean, I think included in the overall plan is for the site to be visited at least 3 or 4 times a year for the next few years. So I agree, it definitely needs to be checked on in the spring for sure, just to make sure everything is still, thriving. I think in the spring we'll know. But all the plants that are planted, the red twig dogwood and the Itea and the red maples are all very tolerant of wet feet. So, I mean, they should be good, but they do need to be checked on for sure.
It's encouraging to hear that there's a plan for monitor and oversight. moving forward. I do actually recall, now that Ms. Miller mentions it, Ms. Jones having indicated that perhaps there was some inundation or flooding in the area, with some concern raised to whether or not the new vegetation was going to actually survive. So yeah, thank you for response on that, Mr. Comer. Ms. Jones, do you have anything to add related to that based on recent visitations?
I don't. I think it'll be something we'll have to revisit in the spring.
All right. Other questions or comments from the commissioners? Mr. Bamber.
Ms. Jones, what would be the next steps, if any, at this time?
So after 2 weeks ago, I was ready to write a new enforcement order requiring a wetland scientist to get involved, but I actually, with the recent efforts from the Jane Center, I feel more comfortable that they have stepped up to be able to complete some of the remediation without that level of oversight. So I think this just bears revisiting in the spring.
Ms. Jones, will we have a need for a motion to schedule something in that regard, or will we just kind of offline have the Jane Center coordinate that when the weather warms?
I don't think you need to have a motion. I'll just try and put it on my calendar for late April or early May to come back to this.
All right, excellent. Well, then, if we don't have any other questions or comments from the commissioners or other statements or concerns from the Jane Center or their representative, Mr. Cormer, we could move along, and just keep in mind that we'll be reevaluating the situation in the spring. And I would just reiterate that I am appreciative of recent efforts and thankful that we're seeing some positive direction in this recovery.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Comer, and thank you for being here, representatives from the Jane Center.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Next up on our agenda, we have Conservation Commission business. Line item number 1, CPC report back. And I'm going to let Ms. Jones tell me who's going to say what.
Okay, I'm prepared this time.
Forgive me, I stand corrected. Ms. Walsh, please take it away.
Because I was like in sticker shock at the last meeting. Okay, so I participated in my first my first community preservation committee. They gave me a nice warm welcome. So there are 5 applications in for FY22. Just quickly, fire bell removal, Hawes ADA walking path, University Ave trail study, Winter Street overlook, and interpretive signage for historic landmarks and locations. So we didn't really talk about that. I think the committee has already been briefed on that and has some information. They provided me with some materials after the meeting, and so I've come up to speed on those. The bulk of the meeting we spent talking about the pricing that came along or came in on the core line work that needs to be done, and the committee had set aside about $205,000 for it, or the pricing came in at $205,000. They had a budget of $215,000, so they are pausing on that because painting was a part of that. And they decided to bid it later, so they're going to bid it now. They think it makes more sense to do the work together, which I totally agree with. There's also a consultant who's coming out to look at the bell to determine how they remove it to make the necessary repairs. And I mentioned that one of the FY22 projects was the fire bell removal. So that same consultant's going to be looking at that, and it looks like that's relatively short money. So that might advance sooner than some of the other initiatives. They talked a little bit about special town meetings and the need to get some of their budgets approved, and then they gave us a schedule of the meetings, and that was it. It was a very quick meeting. Everyone was super friendly and helpful. So I'm looking forward to learning more about it. I've read more about the projects. And so my guess is the meetings beginning in February will be more substantive. Any
Phenomenal.
questions?
Had a warm welcome. Yeah, do we have questions for Ms. Jones related to her first experience as a member of the CPC?
For Ms. Walsh.
Forgive.
Okay, you're an easy group. Thank you.
Thank you for the concise report back. Next up on the agenda, it looks like we have a line item for the 2020 annual report, and I will let Ms. Jones talk about that.
Yeah, so typically every commission and board in town has an annual report that goes into the town's annual report. I know that Ramonda has largely been responsible for these in the past, and it sounds like, I'm not sure if the commission approved them in the past or if they just kind of got written and submitted, but I think technically the commission is supposed to approve the annual report for 2020. So I just wrote something kind of describing the work of the commission, who's on the commission, and some of the major events, including the acquisition of the Saint Street lot and information along those lines. So if the commission wants to, they can approve the report, or it can be continued if folks haven't gotten a chance to read it or anything along those lines.
Make a motion to approve the report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gear. As we've been doing in the remote environment, I'm just going to go down the list of commissioners and ask you to verbally state your position on the vote, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Chris Capizio.
Aye.
Peter Bamber.
Aye.
John Gear.
Aye.
Heather Miller.
Aye.
Carly Rockland.
Aye.
And Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Thanks very much. Very good. Next up, we have the Conservation Agent's report. So this is surely yours, Ms. Jones.
Well, I am excited to announce that there is a family of reindeers that has taken up residence at the Indian conservation land. Our accomplice, Marie Duffy Kidd, has who made the storyboard walks earlier in the year, has once again created a charming quest for families to go find reindeers. So everyone is encouraged to check that out. The other big news from the office is that the request for proposals for designing the riverfront park at the Saint Street lot has finally gone out the door. And proposals will be due back on January 11th. So I'm excited for that process to keep moving forward. And otherwise, if anyone in the public is listening, I wanted to generally remind folks that there are snow removal guidelines issued by the DEP, including not dumping your snow in water or wetland resource areas. And they can reach out to my office for more information on that if any businesses have questions about snow removal. So, report complete.
Thank you for that, Ms. Jones. You talked about snow removal, and I have to confess I've spent my last several days in the realm of GIS creating a snow removal management system that's got my head spinning. I don't want to hear it anymore. All right, next up on the agenda, we have our minutes. I believe we were provided with minutes from the meeting on November 4th to review. If no one requires more time to read up or confirm the content of the minutes, I think we could have a motion to approve those. Mr. Bamber, I see your hand raised.
Do we need to approve them individually?
I think all we have currently under review and pending is the November 4th. Is that correct, Ms. Jones?
I sent out the 18th later in a separate email because I finished it on Monday, I think.
And I knew I had read two, so.
Yeah, let's have separate motions then, please, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve the November 4th minutes.
I second.
All right, as we've been doing in the remote environment, I'm going to ask each Conservation Commissioner to verbally state their position on this vote, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Kristen Capizio.
Aye.
Peter Bamber.
Aye.
John Gear.
Aye.
Heather Miller.
Aye.
Carly Rockland.
Aye.
Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Mr. Bamber, do I have another motion?
Yes, a motion to approve the minutes from November 18th, please.
A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. As we've been doing in the remote environment, I'll ask the commission members to verbally state their position on this vote, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Kristen Capizio.
Aye.
Peter Bamber.
Aye.
John Gear.
Aye.
Heather Miller.
Aye.
Carly Rockland.
Aye.
Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
That brings us to the end of our agenda. Mr. Bamber, do I have an additional motion?
Yes, please. Motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gears. We've been doing in the remote environment. I'll ask the commission members to verbally state their position on this vote, starting with myself. Stephen Washburn is in favor. Aye. Kristen Capizio.
Aye.
Peter Bamber.
Aye.
John Gear.
Aye.
Heather Miller.
Aye.
Carly Rockland.
Aye.
Catherine Walsh.
Aye.
Thanks so much. Thank you for being here tonight. I hope everyone has a happy holiday. I look forward to seeing you all again.
Happy holiday.